Okay, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, and welcome back to the Go There, Do That podcast. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I would recommend starting on Alaska Part 1 if you can, because currently we are on Alaska Part 3.
Did you hear Alexa?
We just had Alexa go off, if you heard that. So I'm here with my lovely wife, Heather, and next to her is O'Malley asking for pets.
Yeah.
And I promise Alexa won't have too much to do with this if you did hear her downstairs.
If you keep saying her name, she's gonna...
No, this one's muted up here.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So, anyways, thank you, first off, to all the listeners. We are officially at 9 Spotify followers.
Whoa.
Yes.
And this is our 6th podcast, so now we're above average, like you were talking about last time.
Last episode was our average episode, meaning that the average podcast does not last over 5 episodes. But this is the 6th one, so if it gets posted, we are above average and officially a podcast. I don't know. I don't know what it means. Okay, so where did we leave off last time? We were in Denali National Park. Mm-hmm. We had just flown around the mountain.
Right,
Mount
just
Denali.
casually. Mm-hmm.
Yes, casually.
On a perfectly clear day.
Perfectly clear day, less than 1% chance of happening. So what do you do after that? What we did do was get on a bus. And so we flew into Denali, if you remember. And now we're taking a bus out of Denali. And it takes
6 hours.
6 hours from the Skyline Lodge where we were staying. And then it's a 6-hour bumpy bus ride. This isn't a Greyhound bus. It's more like a...
It's like a school bus.
School bus.
Yeah.
And if you remember how bouncy those were, it's pretty rough. But that's okay because this is the time you get...
Bless you.
This is the time that you get like the most likely wildlife sightings.
Yeah.
And we did see multiple bear.
Well, because a part of it, what takes it so long is because they go like kind of slow and scenic. There's like a couple of stops along the way.
Yes, they do have rest stops. You're not on a bus for 6 hours total with no breaks.
Right.
They do have little rest stations and everything with facilities. But it is just a very remote park again, and it's just unimaginably huge. Mm-hmm. So what did we see first on the bus as far as wildlife?
Some like squirrel type things. Remember at that one, like the first stop up on that like ridge.
Fun little squirrels.
And then I was like, what if this is like all we see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were some squirrels asking to be fed by passerbys. But what I really want to talk about is the bear. Mm-hmm. Bears, multiple, plural bears that we've seen. And Heather, you like to name the animals that we come across?
Yeah.
The first one was a little bit further away. These are all brown bear that we saw, grizzlies.
Yeah, I couldn't really see it with like my eyeballs. I could see it through your camera lens. I mean, you could see it just like a little dot moving, but it was so far away, it was hard to make out what it was with your eyes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the first one we saw was Clive.
Clive was his name, very far away.
He was kind of disheveled looking, looked like it was a grizzly bear. It looked like he'd had a hard couple of months. His hair was messy.
Mm-hmm. And then there was another one that was super far in the distance. Like there was the one crawling up this mountain, like hill.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking
that we saw.
of.
Yeah, and there was another one out in this field, even further away, and he was barely visible.
I guess I didn't name him.
Yeah, he didn't get a name because you didn't see his eyes, his face. But then the bus driver, like, at one point, stomps on the brakes and everybody starts freaking out. And there's like a million, well, the bus is full of photographers like myself. And so everybody would go from like one side of the bus looking out one side of the window and then run over to the other side if they thought they saw something. And so when the bus driver completely stopped, there was 2 grizzly bears, and they were like maybe less than 50 yards away
They were very close.
from the bus. And it was a mother and a juvenile boy. The little baby, well, I say little, but
He was clearly like a cub,
Yes.
but he was almost as big as the mama grizzly.
and the mom was just laying down, and he was just kind of foraging, messing around.
He was like off on a hill a little bit further away from her, messing around, yeah.
Yes, and then I got like the greatest wildlife footage I think I've ever gotten.
Yeah.
Because it was they ran up to each other, and the baby just like nudged her, and they like played a little bit, and then she was like, "Okay, let's go." And then once she stood up, you could just like see how massive grizzly bears are, and they walked straight towards the bus, and then they just probably less than 10 feet away.
Yeah.
Like that's
Like
the closest
it
they
was,
got.
I was not sure if they were gonna like stop or just like go through the bus.
Yeah, just tip it over. I'll take you, and I'll take you.
Yeah.
But yeah, a mother grizzly bear up that close is quite intimidating. Like it's shaking the ground.
Yeah, you could literally see the ground shaking under her paws.
Yeah, and it's just a casual walk. But then they just moved on, crossed the road, and
that was Marge and Pip.
Marjorie and Pip.
Yeah.
The mother's name is Marjorie. Those are the other 2 names we have. But yeah, that was the closest we've ever gotten to a grizzly bear.
I hope that's the closest we ever get to a grizzly bear.
Right. And that was an incredible experience to see for the first time. But then what happened
That
next?
was our first time seeing bears, wasn't it?
Basically.
Yeah, because we'd seen moose the first time that we visited Alaska for the cruise when we were in Anchorage, but no bears. And then we didn't see any bears when we went to Big Bend. Like that was another opportunity for us to see bears, and we didn't.
Yes.
So that was our first bears.
The most intimidating bear in the world is the first one you see.
Yeah.
So a bear out in the wild. I mean, we've been to zoos before, but
Yeah.
doesn't really count. So we get to the entrance of Denali National Park, and that's very touristy.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, we stayed right outside of the park.
yes, that was just one night. It had a cool river going through it, but it just coming from where we came from and then leaving the park, it just has a totally different vibe to it. Like it's
Well, the only reason I even did it that way is because it would take us 6 hours to get out, so I wasn't gonna like plan the rest, like going to Seward after that and stuff too, because that was just too long.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, like when we went to that, it was like we knew that we were finished with Denali, even though that we're staying right outside of the park.
Yeah.
We had to say goodbye.
Yeah. But not too many insightful things happened.
Yeah.
At that
Well, we did
place.
try to go take a picture at the like one of the signs.
We did take a picture.
Well, we did, but it was like
difficult
scary.
to get to. You had to cross a bridge with no sidewalk.
Yeah. On the very busy road.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yeah.
But we did get so Denali has multiple entrances into it. So it has multiple like little artwork on it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different animals. But this one had a mother grizzly and a little cub next to her, which was kind of interesting that we had that
Experience right before that, yeah.
Yeah. And then it was the ride to Seward again. So it was another bus ride to Seward, which, there's just more Alaska, which is amazing the whole way. But getting into Seward, we did explore Seward, right? We had time for that. What was Seward like?
Well, yeah, because we stayed one night in Seward before we went to Kenai. For some reason, I actually remember the hotel name of that, but I think it's because you have like a shot of it and it says
Windsong.
Windsong, yeah. But yeah, we kind of explored the downtown area a little bit. We had like a really funny shuttle driver, if you remember.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also really cool because when we were in Seward, I cannot think of what her name is, but there's a swimmer.
She was in the Olympics
Yeah.
from Seward.
Yeah, and it was like during the Olympics or like
Summer.
right before or right after or
Yeah,
something.
they had all the posters up.
But they had a lot of posters up so in support of her.
It was before. It was the good luck. We hope you do
Yes.
well. And then she ended up
And then she like
won.
yeah, killed it. I wish I remember what her name was, but
Yeah.
yeah, the American swimmer from
2021.
Seward. So, yeah.
Not too many of those, I don't think.
Yeah.
She just trained in.
But it was cool because it's like kind of like a touristy little town, but like that's still like local vibes, you know, like the whole town is like in support of, you know, this girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. Sorry, O'Malley is making a lot of noises.
He's being a baby.
Yeah.
So, one thing I do remember, a fun fact about Seward is it has a marathon mountain.
Yeah.
And it's every year they have a race. They go up this mountain. Like it literally just start at the base of this mountain. Everybody runs up, and it doesn't look very fun to do.
No, it's like very steep.
But yeah, they just do a race in Seward every year.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of people run up this mountain and back down, and then there's like record
Yeah.
times and everything. But it does not look too easy. But it's the marathon mountain race in Seward, and so once it was time, we had to go to Kenai Fjords.
Well, didn't you see an eagle
Oh,
the
rewind.
night before we left?
So there's a family of bald eagles that have stayed in Seward for generations, and you know sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. But I did get footage and some photos of this bald eagle in its nest, and it was just sitting there squawking. I didn't bug her too much, but it was very cool to see a giant. Their nests, bald eagles' nests, are huge. But yeah, that family of eagles has just been hanging out in Seward for forever. It's the same.
How do you know?
That's what they told me.
Who?
The locals.
Oh.
Yeah. Probably the bus driver.
I was going to say, I bet you.
I learned
probably brought it up
everything.
to the bus driver.
All these facts I've learned from that bus driver.
You just remember everything.
Yeah. He did tell a joke. He said, I was an elevator operator once, and somebody asked me how it was, and I just said, well, it has its ups and downs.
I can't believe you remember that.
Yeah. So, yeah, boat ride to Kenai.
Yeah.
That was pretty incredible because we did set sail from the exact same place.
Yeah, basically.
2 years
Before that. Yeah.
earlier, and so this was on a much smaller boat. It fit maybe a dozen or so people on it, but there weren't that many people on it, so we had the freedom to walk around and go outside or inside. We saw an otter, which was really cool, just out in the middle of the water, and it was just having fun. Like it literally didn't.
It was like playing. Yeah.
Just hanging out upside down, and I mean each boat that passes by is a really amazing visual. Like it's just like the stock images that you see just anywhere, but it's like you're seeing it there. It's like a fishing boat or a family going out on their boat, just hanging out and against these giant mountains. It was really cool. That's like probably one of my favorite parts. But then one of the stops we had was at Bear Glacier. No kidding. We had just seen bears. And then we go to a glacier called Bear Glacier. And then there was a hanging glacier too, which I had this really incredible moment remembering, like following this waterfall that's going the base of this mountain. And then I just like go up with my camera And then I'm like, oh, that's a glacier like melting that much, causing waterfalls to cascade
Yeah.
down this mountain.
Yeah.
So in Alaska, on all the most hills and mountains, you'll see like waterfalls just coming down, and that is like pretty much all from glacier melts. But yeah, that's a just a feature of all the mountains as you go through. And then there was the fjords of Kenai, which is, if you Google Kenai Fjords, this is what you're gonna see mostly, is these little like spire like
Yeah.
rocks
Rock
sticking
formations. Yeah.
sticking up out of the water, and they have just like green plants all over it, and all this weird moss I remember along the side. But yeah, very cool, very incredible. We did see a porpoise
Oh yeah.
for a moment, but they don't hang out above water too long. And then let's see, they like stopped for lunch too. It was a very long boat ride. How long was it?
It was like 3 hours.
3
at
hours.
least, yeah.
Yeah. And so they did emphasize how difficult it is to like get help from to Kenai. So we literally, there's no dock at the place we were staying. It's the Kenai Fjords Glacier Lodge, and they just pull up this boat on rocks, and then they just drop this ramp, and then you get off the boat, and there's like some people from the lodge like waiting for you. But tell us about how difficult it was to get here, like booking wise.
Oh. Well, I really wanted to stay inside the park, but there's only one place to stay inside the park, and it was at the Kenai Fjords Glacier Lodge. So I don't like to book things if it's not like I can do it all online. Like if I have to call somebody or like email somebody about it, I usually like try to find an alternative method, but I had no other choice. So it didn't show up where like I could do the time frame that we were kind of looking for. And we really only had like one more night that we could be, like we had one night to be there. So I emailed them and was like, hey, like we basically have one night that we can be there. Is that an option? Because it's kind of like one of those places where there's like minimum. And they happen to have availability, but it was only for the one night.
One single night. And you pull up to this magical oasis. We described it as Narnia. Go ahead.
Well, now I'm thinking, I think maybe the reason, I think that I could only book one night.
Yeah, that's literally all you could do.
It wasn't like that I was like, oh, we only have one night. Like, I could only get one night there.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I was like thinking that it was where I was like, oh, we can only stay one night. But it was like,
no, it just had limited.
You can come, but you can only have one night.
It was very limited availability.
Yeah, that's right. Because I would have adjusted the other parts of the schedule to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was really amazing. Upon arrival, and then we have this little orientation, and one of the things, I mean, how long total? Less than 24 hours.
We were in Denali,
right.
Yeah.
For Kenai.
Yeah.
Less than 24 hours.
Yeah. And
so the guide, as we walked, it was like a mile walk to get to the lodge from like the beach area. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just like all these people who are going to stay there, just all walking. And she's like saying, hey, you will see bears. There's black bears all over the place. We don't have any brown bears. So there's that. And everybody's like, oh, thank goodness. Because
black bears are pretty easy to avoid.
Yes. There's a saying for when you face bears. If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lie down. And if it's white, say goodnight. That's a polar bear. But black bears, normally they're pretty docile. They like forage on little nuts and fruits, and they're just kind of, less aggressive,
Yeah.
less likely to want to eat you compared to grizzlies.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
But it's so isolated that there's like black bears everywhere.
Yes. Like there's only the only civilization that is on this place is the Glacier Lodge with a very few staff members, on site, and it takes 3 hours to get there by boat.
Yeah.
There's not really a ton of places to land a helicopter at either because it's all these big, tall trees.
There is like a normal side of the park too, because like it's a national park, so you don't have to like go to the Glacier Lodge to get into the park. But we didn't see that side of the park at all.
Nope. It was just this one little spot. And so we get to the lodge. That was really cool. I mean, it had these giant windows. They were pretty amazing. All these little boardwalks that go out, different places, and everybody gets their own cabin. We had Orchid was the name.
Oh yeah.
And so literally upon our arrival, there's a screen that you go out of. It's like a screen back porch that you go to. And we walk out there, and then there's just a view of a glacier. Pedersen Glacier was the name. But yeah.
There's like a little like lake type area, and then mountains in the background, and then a glacier like in between the mountains. And it's just like from your porch view, that's just like what you see, and it's literally just it doesn't seem real.
Nope. And there's a lagoon. So there's a lagoon across. So there's a body of water. There's like trees. You're covered in trees. And through the trees, framed, like in a little
literally framed by
perfect
the trees.
picture frame. And then at the bottom, there's a lagoon. And then there's a glacier. And then the mountains, as Heather described. But it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I remember, like, as soon as we got there to, like, the cabin, I was like, we need to ask if we can, like, stay longer. Like, what if maybe somebody canceled something. Like, I was so desperate because I was like, oh, my God. Like, I realized that we only had, like, 24 hours to be at this place, and it was the most, like, beautiful place I'd ever been to in my life. And we'd just come from Denali. And so I was just, like, desperate. I had to, like, the way that the trip was, the day after we got back, like, flew back, I was supposed to teach summer school. And I remember being like, whatever, like, I'll figure it out. Like, I can get a sub for that or something because, and, like, I was going to change our flights and everything just because it would have been worth it. But lucky for us or unlucky for us, we couldn't swing that.
I wonder if there's a term for that, where you arrive somewhere and you immediately know that you would like to stay for much longer than you already have. I mean, like is that any vacation that you go on?
I don't know. I haven't felt that way everywhere, where I'm just like, I don't want to leave this place. Like, it doesn't feel right to leave. But then it also, like, made it so beautiful because, like, we only had that limited amount of time.
Yeah.
Like, because I knew that, like, I think that we really did kind of make every second count there.
We didn't waste time because right away we walked out of the cabins just onto the beach where the lagoon is, and we saw a black bear.
Yeah.
And so going back to when we first arrived, there was like an orientation that we had, and the I don't know what headmaster, the main person, main lady giving us the orientation. She was in charge at the time. She had told us. So the lady.
Did you say that because we just watched Matilda?
Probably.
You're thinking like headmaster.
I don't know.
I'm just trying to figure out where that came from.
She wasn't Miss Trunchbull though.
Yeah.
She's very nice.
Sorry.
But, so there's the first initial greeting where she was like, "You're gonna see black bears," but then the next one was like, "Here's your cabins," and blah blah blah. But she did say, she's like, "For the first time ever, we've ID'd our first brown bear here."
Yeah.
So Like literally, we were told no brown bears, and then they were
Yep.
like, actually, there's one
Yeah.
somewhere, and they're like, they like to. All the bears like to sleep really close to the cabins,
Yeah.
underneath them, whatever. So just like leave them alone.
Yeah. Just be careful.
There was a story of this one woman who went. Like every time you leave somewhere, you're supposed to sign in and sign out. Like if you
Right.
just go to the beach or go for a casual walk, you're supposed to tell them like that
Yeah.
you're gone, just in case. And there was one woman who went for a walk, and then she didn't come back for like a while. And so like, what took you so long? And she was like, oh, I was coming back to my cabin, and there was a bear sleeping on it, so I just turned around and kept walking. Because she couldn't go into her cabin.
Into her cabin.
She had to wait for the bear to leave. So very intimate with these bears. So going back to our walk that we were on, immediately upon getting to our cabin, go to the beach, and right away we see a black bear. And he was really fat. He had a fat booty.
But he was just chill. Like, I don't know, bear. I know that like it'd be cool if we see a bear because Ethan's a photographer, videographer, so I know that that would be like great shots. But secretly, for me, I'm always like, I'm okay with not seeing a bear here. But he was just like off minding his own business and being cute but far away and not worried about us. So it was like it was a good experience, not on a bus seeing a bear. You know, like we saw the grizzly bears before that, but we were we were on the bus, like we were okay. But like being just out in the open and seeing a bear for the first time, it was like a good experience.
Distance. Yeah.
But I still was not gonna hang out there by myself. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't care though. So and then after that we went to the beach.
And before that, we did like the nightmarish
I didn't think you wanted to bring that up.
canoe ride.
So when we first got there, they made everybody get in a canoe, and it's just like a fun activity. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to walk around, but
it's like team building for
Yeah.
like a bunch of people that don't know each other and
Yeah.
are staying in this lodge. So
it's a very intimate environment, like with people as well as bears, right?
Yeah.
You're in different cabins, but you see each other all the time. But we weren't there long enough to make friends, I guess. That's why we were like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was everybody get into a canoe, and then they were like, okay. And if you've ever been in a canoe before, you know, like
it takes a lot of teamwork.
yeah, it with like 8 people or something. It was
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, Heather.
I was ready for it to be over, but it was fine. It was very beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, because then you're, like, the canoe was, like, in the lagoon area with the glacier and the mountains in the background that you see from your cabins. So it was cool to see that a little bit closer. But, yeah.
And all the seagulls flying around, and yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that, yeah.
They were everywhere. But
Before we went to the beach, we asked if we could go on a hike by ourselves because we could only do one excursion while we were there because that was all we had time for, and it would be like the next day after we got there before we left. And I really wanted to do the kayaking, so that's like what we were going to do. But there was also like this really cool trail like up on this mountain ridge where you can like see glaciers and all that I wanted to do. So I was like, what if we just like do that on our own? Because like we had time for it, but they said that we couldn't go by ourselves.
yeah, they emphasized the safety that they had to put in place. So it wasn't about bears all per se. It was just like if you twist your ankle, if you like trip and fall and nobody can get to you, right? Like that takes up a lot of staff time and energy, and it's just a whole thing that can probably be avoided if you just don't go by yourself.
Yeah.
But also,
it was like it kind of put me in my place after like being in Denali at like the Skyline Lodge, and they're like, have fun, good luck, like do whatever.
Oh, don't forget the bear spray. You might see one.
And also like in Denali, you can like hike wherever you want. Like that's literally a thing apart from in that park where a lot of other parks is like stay on the trail, but like Denali, you can literally hike wherever you want to. And then it was like, no, you're not allowed to go on this trail.
Yeah.
Because you might be dumb.
Yeah,
clumsy. I am clumsy, so
we did twist your ankle
yeah.
at Big Bend.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they were just like, don't do it. But we didn't have much time there, so we were trying not to. But you could go to the beach by yourself
We went to the beach
for some reason.
because, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't
Well,
have
it
to.
wasn't that far.
Yeah, well,
Not on a mountain.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's still far enough. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, yeah. Then as we approach, out in this field, there's a bear,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just hanging out. Like they just hang out. They're not like they're just like, you stay over there, I'll stay over here, and we'll
Yeah.
just be good. And I'll just keep foraging and hanging out. But Heather started singing a little improvisational bear song.
Yeah.
You just, we were talking, but Heather likes to sing on top of talking to each other just to make sure
there's no
yeah.
points of silence where the bear might think that there's not people there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he noticed that.
You just the biggest thing is you don't want to surprise them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she was like, around this corner there could be a bear. Oh my gosh, there's any corner we turn.
Literally any corner could
Yeah.
have a bear.
They were everywhere. So, we get to the beach, and it's very
Beautiful.
magical,
it was like
beautiful.
Sun. It was probably like 11,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like
The sunset.
golden hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the rocks were glimmering off of the sun,
Mm-hmm.
and the waves were crashing, and then Heather goes and walks next to these seagulls, and they all fly away. And then, so if you would at some point refer to, or just imagine with me, the Go There Do That logo, which is it's a bear shape, right? And within the bear, filled in, there's different other shapes, like pine trees and mountains. And there was two
And a sun.
mountains that go and a sun between them. And it was that exact, and this was the logo before we went to Kenai.
Yeah.
But it was weird because there was a bear, the pine trees, the sun setting behind these two like mountains. It was every element in our logo in that specific moment, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
And also very incredible. But yeah, and then the beach, we were just sitting there, and I asked Heather to walk along the water on the beach, and there was a particular wave that had crashed a little bit too close,
Yeah.
and just
underestimated it.
Just got Heather's shoes all wet,
Yeah.
as well as mine.
So
that was
our cue to head back.
right. Yeah, the ending of that impromptu excursion. It's probably why they say, your shoes get wet. We can't help you. That's why you're supposed to go on an excursion.
Right, exactly. We had access to like a drying room though, so I wasn't expecting to use it, but we did.
Yes, but we did manage, and it was that day or the next day when we signed up for excursions.
We had signed up the day before.
Right. So that day
that
we
night,
showed
yeah.
up. Yeah. But yeah, the one excursion that we did manage to get was a kayaking tour to Ayalik Glacier.
Yeah.
And it's Ayalik Bay is the whole big body of water. So it's a bay, and there's a little island. It's called Slate Island. There's a sea cave that you could look at.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, that was the one excursion that we signed up for.
Yeah. So you go around the little island. And so for most of the excursion, you can't see the glacier because the island is on the left of you, kind of blocking your view. And then you see all the little chunks of ice floating in the water though. So what is in store. And of course there's beautiful mountains all around you. But then you turn the corner for on the island, because you literally go around the island to come back. And then you have the big reveal of the glacier. I think that's it was just nature made, but it was a nice touch.
Yeah, did it on purpose.
Yeah.
And so one of the stories the guide gave us was Spanish conquistadors used to think they were getting shot at with cannons when they were around glaciers, but it was actually the glaciers calving, which was the noise they were hearing. And so we could definitely hear it calving, just sitting on the water, even with a glacier. And it was like very, very
Every couple of
far.
minutes, really. Yeah.
But it was super far away. It was also very active. And it was one of the few advancing glaciers.
Yeah, like it's actually getting bigger.
Yeah, Ayalik Glacier is one of the few that is actually moving forward instead of like melting
Receding,
and going
yeah.
backwards, which I thought was really, really cool. Yeah, and I guess rewinding to before we had gotten in the boats, they had to convince another two couples to go with us on this excursion because they needed like a limited. I think it was limited.
They only have so many guides, and
Yeah.
so you kind of have to pair up and do things.
Minimum number
Together.
of people though was 6, and so they convinced two other couples to go. But once we got there, one of the couples was a little bit elderly, and so they couldn't get into the kayak, and it was a 2-seater, and so they couldn't go, which was very unfortunate. But
But we were already there, so they weren't gonna like be like, "Sorry, you can't do this excursion."
right, because we were literally like paddling around, and he was like, "Hey, come back here, don't go too far," because we had to.
Yeah,
we were the first
wait
ones
on.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, that was unfortunate. We'll get back to that later. But when we see the glacier, we're sitting there. There's a little seal, like a little bit further away, and then like the glacier calved, and then he just started like going the opposite way.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh."
Yeah. And it was much farther. It took a few seconds for the sound to get to us. So we would like hear the sound and be looking for the calving, but it already happened. Yeah. And there was a certain distance that you could only get close enough to. I think it was like a mile or so, because when it was calving, it would just create these big waves that could capsize your kayak if you weren't careful enough.
Yeah. Because there's like 2 kayaking excursion choices. I'm assuming that no one did the other one because there's like a shorter one, which is the one we had to do because we had to leave the same day. And then there's like a longer one, and it goes up closer to the, like basically as close as you can get to the glacier before the danger zone. And you like eat lunch there and stuff. But
yeah, it's an all-day thing.
Yeah.
We didn't have all day. We had less than 1 day. So, yeah, and we were just sitting there for a few minutes listening while we had time. And
taking it in.
there was a bald eagle that flew over us, which was really cool. So much Alaska going on right here is what the guide had said. But that was very special. And we start paddling back, and we did have to get up a little bit early to do this, and there was like some fog, rolling in along with the little pieces of glacier that we saw. That was a really cool moment, I think, on our initial approach to the island. We did see a bunch of puffins on Slate.
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
Slate Island, yeah.
I forgot about them.
So, coming back though, it's like later in the day, and then there are a bunch of tour boats start coming up to go look at the bay and everything.
There's a lot more waves going on.
And there was a lot more waves, and I had my camera with me because they were like, "Are you sure you want to bring that?" I was like, "Of course I want to bring it. Let me get this footage. I don't want GoPro footage, you know? Like I want the camera that I use." But those waves started coming in from the tour boats, and there was a point where one hit us, and it was just very, it was a very big wave, so it got my camera wet, but I wasn't too scared. Well,
you couldn't be. It's like it either is or it isn't. Like there's nothing you can do in the moment that you're on the kayak.
Yeah,
it's just like,
but it was
hopefully it's fine.
But we get back to the beach and land and everything, and I'm letting no more footage because when your camera gets a little wet, it's not a good idea to turn it back on.
Yeah,
you just gotta wait just to be safe. Wait for it to dry out, but then. On our way back, and we got to know the other couple with us. He was a really cool retired guy. Did a lot of fishing in his day. But we're walking back, and we see in the bay, a humpback whale just start,
Doing its thing.
doing its thing, going up and down, breaching. And that was one of those, as they say in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, a ghost cat moment. If you've seen that movie, Sean Penn, character, is a photographer. He sees something that he really wants to take a photo. He waited years to take a photo of the snow leopard, which is a rare animal. And then Ben Stiller's like, "Why aren't you taking the photo?" And he's like, "I just want to sit here in this moment." So he doesn't take the photo. He's like, "Sometimes I don't want the camera getting in the way." And I just realized that was maybe my first one that was forced on me because I couldn't turn my camera on.
Right.
And I had to sit there with everybody and just enjoy the whale, which was very nice.
Just enjoy the whale with the normies who don't have cameras.
Yeah, it's just a curse I put on myself, needing to record everything. But it's the power of a camera. It's capturing moments.
Yeah, and I do appreciate you capturing them.
Because when that bald eagle flew over, I actually have that recorded when you say,
Yeah.
"You better have been recording or taking photos or something."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the guide says, "There's so much Alaska happening." And it's just like, seems like a studio production. Like, how did that happen in real life?
Unscripted.
Yeah, in that order.
Yeah. But after watching this whale, and I think after, referring back to the other couple that couldn't get into the boat, I believe, all of us saw this happen that were there now. The guide was staying behind taking care of the boats. But this guy looks at me and Heather, and he's like, kind of has this moment with us. And when I tell this story, I always think like it was, he comes up to me and grabs me by the collar of my shirt. I did tell this story in the second episode of the podcast too. But if you haven't heard that one, here it is again. Or maybe I'm telling it slightly differently.
Yeah.
But yeah, he grabs me by the collar of my shirt.
But the way, like you could hear it in his voice. Like it was important to him that we like listened to him. Like there was like a sense of urgency in his voice.
Yeah. And it's like moments like this in your life are the things that you just never forget. It's very strange what is made important to you versus not, because it's all about how you like interpret it. I could be telling this story and saying, well, that guy was kind of nuts, wasn't he? Like, I don't listen to people. I don't listen to other people's opinions or points of view. That's not me though.
Right.
It really resonated with me because like sometimes I think like what he told me was
okay. I was about to say,
right. Yeah.
you should probably
drum roll. Okay, here's what he actually told me. He said, "Do not wait to retire to keep doing these things like I did. Like you need to save up every penny, nickel, dime. Look between your couch cushions for any money that you can find, and keep doing this. Like keep doing what you are doing now, because you will not regret it." And he was like, "I waited until I retired, and now my knees aren't what they used to be. Like I had difficulty getting in the boat, and like I'm just hurting right now after that long kayak thing." He's like, "Just do it while you can, and you won't ever regret it." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." Because also,
and I trust him.
Yeah, well, I mean, we wouldn't have heard that had we not been there already going there, doing that type of thing.
But it was like he was relieved to see
reaffirming, yes,
that we were doing that. Yeah.
You young people.
Yeah. And like we do things for our motivation is like for ourselves for the most part. Like we're doing things because we want to do them. But it is like special to like hear that like it's just validating to like hear that. And then you don't want to like assume that of other people, like, oh well, you might grow up and have regrets, but I don't want to, so
you don't feel like
it's worth it.
Having regrets. I don't feel like it.
Not related to not traveling,
Oh, right.
like waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Like what are you waiting? What are we waiting for?
The right
It
time.
might not ever happen.
Right.
Might not ever come. So, might as well.
So if you take away anything from this, just you don't have to necessarily travel, but just do something that you've really been wanting to do. Because there could be some old person along the way to validate what you're doing.
Yeah, makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
kidding.
But it was really cool.
Yeah.
I always see him as like,
Well, and we were like in Narnia, like Kenai Fjords just literally felt like another world. And then we have this experience, we had the experience with the bear and seeing it like the logo and we're like, "Oh my gosh, like this is like go there do that. Like this is like what we like literally what we envisioned." And then we've gone on this amazing kayak ride that was exactly like what I thought. Like I had seen pictures of it. That's why I was like, I want to do that because it looked beautiful. And then it was exactly like better than I imagined it. And then we're about to have to leave this place that I wanted to stay forever. And then they're like, "Hey, you're doing good, kid. Keep it up."
yes.
So it was just, yeah, it was a cool moment.
Yeah, I'm like, what if that was like the older version of me
Oh, yeah.
telling myself that?
And you get meta about it.
Well, that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could fast forward time 40 years from now
Yeah.
and talk to myself, I would say keep doing what you're doing. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really fun and cool and amazing. And
all the adjectives.
yes. But Kenai Fjords, it was less than 24 hours and we don't regret it.
No.
And there's also
it was worth every it was only 24 hours. Like it is kind of ridiculous to I think some people might look at that and be like, that's not worth it. Like it's a 3-hour boat ride there, 3-hour boat ride back, and then you don't have time to do everything that you want to do. So what's the point in going? And it was worth every second that we spent there. Also, the food was really good. Do you remember how fancy we felt?
Yeah, they did serve up some very nice food, and I was gonna bring up the.
It was all well presented and stuff too. Yeah, where you're supposed to eat with certain forks.
Yeah. It was fancy, and the was it the professor of marketing,
Caltech something, yeah.
Like the
director of finance.
Director of finance for Caltech was there.
Yeah, that's when we were like, oh, I don't know if we fit in here.
No, because I'm wearing my bucket hat and just sitting there just some kids where are your parents?
Yeah, exactly. That's how it felt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think that's what that guy noticed was you're not here with anybody. It's literally just you two doing this thing. Who are you with? Nobody. Because you could kind of tell which there's a family there.
Yeah, the
There's
families that were together.
The couples, everybody kind of stuck together. But when he saw us together, he's like, "Hey." Oh, also really cool thing, they had these things that you could order from their bar called a glacier Rita, and it was a margarita but with glacier ice, and they were like, "Yeah, we literally bring back some ice in kayaks and then break it up, and serve it to you."
Yeah, that was cool. Cool little iconic thing to have there.
Glacier Rita.
Yeah.
With glacier ice in it. It's really cool. So, where do we go from here? We were pretty much done.
It's still one of my favorite places I've ever stayed. But yeah, then we went back to Seward and got to spend the evening there. Went to the beach, watched the sunset, and remember we ran into some people that they were at the Skyline Lodge in Denali with us. And
once we got back to Seward.
Yeah, and we got back to Seward and we went to a brewery and we ran into them. That was really fun too.
Yeah, we have a selfie with them. Because it's run into you at this one park and then happened to be in the
And
same
we had like talk,
place.
like we got to know each other a little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't like
Yeah.
close by the two places we saw them at.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool.
It was fun to run into
We didn't even
them.
talk to them like about, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that. But anyways, so recap on Kenai Fjords overall total feelings.
Yeah. I want to go back, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was just the 8th and 9th day of no rain while we were there.
It might have been less than that.
Less than that?
Like 7th and 8th or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was so most of the time at Kenai, it is raining.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there for
Most of the time in Alaska, it's raining.
Most of the
It
time in
rains a
Alaska.
lot in the summer.
Yes. So again, crazy weather on this trip.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was pretty amazing that we did get clear.
There was no rain the entire
Skies.
time we were there. It was just beautiful,
Mhm.
like 70 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
sunny.
But it was one of the few days that summer that they had no rain. And, you know, you couldn't do a kayak. You couldn't take the camera.
That's so true. I didn't think about that.
You couldn't do
Yeah,
things.
like what if we had gone, we had 24 hours to be
Just
there,
rain.
and then it just rained the whole time and we
didn't
couldn't
see
do anything?
any sunset or anything. That's what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
That just hit me.
You never thought about that?
No, I didn't. I really didn't.
It could have been
Like,
raining.
I was just like, oh, cool. Yeah, it's the 7th sunny day, but also,
Well, it could have been
I don't
raining.
know. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
So the most calm, peaceful, serene, even the bears that sometimes people see as threatening were absolutely not threatening. Like everything was calm, and it felt like you were just walking through the air. I mean, it was like 72 degrees the whole time, like perfect weather.
Perfect weather.
It was all so great, and there will never be an experience just like it because that was crazy.
Yeah.
And
That's true. Even if I like was trying to chase that high again and go back, we could go back and it rains the whole time.
yes, so think about that. Think about that a lot. That's all I think about are things like this.
Yeah.
Like,
How special it is. Yeah.
yeah, like not only did it happen, we were there when it happened, right? Like it's not likely for it to even happen,
Yeah.
but for us just happening to be there is crazy.
Yeah.
So we get back to Seward, see our friends, and I don't know, I get like this sometimes
Sorry.
where I know we're gonna leave, and it was like getting to we had to go back to the hotel or whatever. Like it was just getting dark, and
Yeah.
we walked along the beach in Seward, and I was literally just staring like out into the void of the water and just hoping that something happened. But I had no idea what could happen. But I was just standing there just like, you know, still wanting more because I'm like constantly like, we're here right now. Like I can't be sitting on the couch later on and be like, I should have waited. I was thinking about that one night in Seward and I should have waited outside. Like I'd rather stand there and just do nothing and wait until Heather's like, okay, we need to get back now. Rather than just sitting in the hotel room like, we're done with Kenai.
Yeah.
But I do that in most places I go to, and it's quite exhausting for myself. But I think it's overall, it's worth it. Always being ready, and I think that's
We're so greedy because if you remember when we got back to Anchorage, like we had like a flight, but I think our flight wasn't until like late, like 8 or something p.m. And so we rode a bus from Seward back to Anchorage, which I don't know how long that is, maybe like 4 hours. And then when we got there, we still had time. And so we checked our bags, you know, in like a little storage thing so that we could go back to Kincaid Park to maybe see a moose. Because we had been to Kincaid Park when we went in 2019 for the cruise and we saw like 2 moose there. And so we were like, whatever, let's go see if we can. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
We walked around some more, and it's just like, you know, when do you?
Yeah, like
do
we
you
still
call it?
weren't ready to like give up. Like we were like, maybe we'll see a moose. Like we just like, yeah. I always feel, I mean, Yeah. I don't always feel that way like on every trip we've been to, but I feel like I always feel like that in Alaska. Like it's always like it is enough because it has to be, but it never feels like enough.
Mm-hmm. It's like a spell.
Yeah. Yeah, Alaska has a spell on us for sure.
Just look at your hoodie.
Yeah, I did wear it on purpose.
That's funny. But yeah, what is that feeling of not wanting to waste a second?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're uncomfortable. You would like to be in a bed. You've been doing nonstop traveling for a minute and activities and stuff, and then you're still like awake and aware and wanting to like see more of this place that you don't normally get to see.
Yeah.
Is that a feeling? It's just being wanderlust, whatever. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Like what gives you that energy as opposed to like every day? Like when you're, well, I mean, like when you're out and about, out in nature, it's just a constant flow of like energy
Yeah.
into you. Like you can't. It's hard to feel lazy, like when you're outdoors. Like if you go take a nap outdoors, it's like cool because you're getting a tan, or cool because you're. It's like so much more rejuvenating.
Yeah.
With just about anything.
Well, because like if I'm sitting in my house and I'm just like sitting and like enjoying the moment, but just like sitting doing nothing, I feel guilty and I'm like, I should be doing something. But we can go like camping and I can be sitting like in a hammock doing nothing for like hours and you just don't have that feeling of like guilt. Like you're like, I'm where I'm supposed to be, even though technically you're doing like the same activity, but just outside.
The only thing that makes you go is literally the flight out of there. Like, I mean, you're there until the last possible second. We did not see any moose in our second
Spoiler
visit.
alert. We did not see any moose.
But we saw 2 the first time.
Yeah.
In 2019.
Yeah, can't be greedy.
Well, we can be. That's what I mean. We're greedy with our time. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You're not like you're hoping, right? But like the only way you can actually like experience something out in nature, like I said, like it's not likely for these things to happen. Like a bear to be walking by this perfect whatever. It's not likely for that to happen in the first place. But to be in the right position to see it happen, like the bald eagle flying over us, or just the bear at the sunset, like we could have went there a day later, with our schedule, and it would have rained or something. Like, it's crazy. But that's how most things in nature feel like, because animals are so unpredictable.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you just walk outside and you see a bird doing something for the first time ever. Like, you've never seen a bird do this specific thing before. I don't know. It's really cool. Nature is cool. Outdoors is cool.
Yeah.
I just want to overemphasize how special.
Nature is good.
Especially something as wild as Alaska. Because...
And that's why we keep going back. And that's why there's a part 4 to this series, because we didn't let it be enough.
Nope.
And we went back.
Yeah, spoiler alert. This time it's for the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
So that's a very different trip altogether.
Yeah.
And we do return to Denali again. Couldn't help it. But I guess Heather's closing this one out.
Yeah.
This episode.
Yeah, what do I say? Bye.
Wait, give us one more.
Okay. One more what?
Goodbye.
Okay. Goodbye. Thank you for being here. Oh, that makes me think of Bob's Burgers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for loving me. The whole world's thinking. Everybody's thinking. Thanking us. Thanking you. I don't remember the rest of it. I probably didn't even sing that part right.
It's a Thanksgiving song.
Anyways.
She says, kill the turkey.
Yes, it is Kill the Turkey. Yeah. Ugh. I love you.
So
okay,
long.
bye.